So in terms of military capabilities, the score came in at 95% of all available points for the F-35 built by the American firm Lockheed Martin. By contrast, the Gripen built by Sweden's Saab only got 33% of the total score for military capabilities.
It's a very potent aircraft as well. It's different than the F-35. JAS Gripen is not a fifth-generation aircraft, so that's the biggest difference.
The Pentagon watches Russia's Su-57 with predictable concern. China's J-20 generates classified briefings and budget requests. These are the fighters that dominate threat assessments and congressional testimonies. The heavy hitters designed to challenge American air dominance directly. But there is another aircraft that creates unease in Washington for reasons that rarely appear in public discussions. It is not faster than American fighters. It carries fewer weapons. Defense analysts agree it would probably lose a direct confrontation with an F-35 under most circumstances. What makes this aircraft troubling has nothing to do with specifications or performance metrics. It has everything to do with philosophy, a completely different way of thinking about what air power actually means, how it should be structured, who should control it. Sweden's Saab JS-39 Gripen has captured attention from military strategists worldwide, not because it threatens to outperform American technology, because it threatens to make American technology less relevant to how nations think about defending their skies. Understanding why the Gripen concerns American defense planners requires understanding what they are not worried about. Washington does not fear losing dogfights to Swedish aircraft. By virtually every technical measurement that matters in aerial combat, the F-35 maintains clear superiority. Stealth capabilities remain unmatched by anything the Gripen can achieve. Sensor systems operate at sophistication levels that Swedish engineers openly acknowledge exceed their designs. Weapons integration functions through networks that even Allied analysts recognize as beyond the Gripen's reach. The concern lies elsewhere entirely. Analysts who study Pentagon thinking highlight that American unease is rooted in structure, economics, and strategic philosophy rather than combat performance. The Gripen embodies an approach to air power that prioritizes practicality and resilience over peak technological achievement. The Gripen's design philosophy emphasizes sufficiency at a fraction of the cost. It directly challenges the assumption that air superiority requires the most technologically advanced and expensive aircraft that human engineering can produce. When a country purchases the Gripen, it is choosing more than a less expensive fighter jet. It is choosing flexibility over optimization, independence over integration, the ability to operate without direct reliance on Washington for software updates, maintenance support, or operational permissions. This reflects Sweden's historical approach to national defense shaped during decades of Cold War pressure. Sweden maintained armed neutrality throughout that period. The country opted not to join NATO despite geographic proximity to the Soviet Union. That decision carried profound implications for military strategy that persist today. The Swedish Air Force had to be capable of surviving attacks without support from allies who might never arrive, without access to overseas bases that neutrality prevented, without reinforcements from nations whose commitments remained uncertain. This philosophy shaped every aspect of the Gripen's development from initial concept through current production. The aircraft was not designed to dominate skies from massive fortified airbases staffed by hundreds of specialized support personnel. It was built to operate in dispersed conditions across Swedish territory, to survive when infrastructure has been destroyed by opening salvos, to function with minimal resources when supply chains fracture. Saab's publicly available documentation reveals capabilities that challenge conventional assumptions about fighter operations. The Gripen can take off from highway stretches as short as 800 meters. Basic maintenance requires only a crew of 6 technicians rather than dozens. Turnaround between missions can be completed in 10 minutes rather than hours. Refueling, rearming, and technical checks can all be performed on ordinary roads without specialized equipment that would be destroyed in the opening phase of any serious conflict. The aircraft embodies survivability rather than absolute dominance. That distinction makes it strategically significant in ways that traditional aerial combat metrics completely fail to capture. The financial implications deserve serious attention from anyone analyzing defense procurement. Reports from the United States Government Accountability Office indicate that F-35 operating costs per flight hour range from $35,000 to $47,000 depending on variant and mission type. While this figure has decreased over time as production matured, it remains prohibitively high for many nations considering fighter acquisitions. Defense budgets stretch only so far regardless of threat assessments or alliance commitments. By contrast, the Gripen's operating cost runs approximately $8,000 per flight hour, based on data from Saab and Air Forces currently operating the platform. That difference transforms what is possible within fixed budgets. This cost gap allows nations to fly Gripens far more frequently than F-35s using identical funding. More flying hours translate directly into more pilot training, more patrol missions covering national airspace, greater combat experience accumulated across the force, higher overall mission readiness when crises actually emerge. Mission readiness measures the percentage of aircraft available to fly at any given moment. This metric matters more than theoretical performance, because aircraft sitting in maintenance hangars contribute nothing to national defense, regardless of their capabilities. While F-35 fleets have struggled with readiness rates between 30 and 50% according to government audits, Gripen units maintain rates between 80 and 90%. Swedish and Czech Air Force reports confirm that operational reliability matters more than theoretical superiority documented on specification sheets. The Gripen's engineering approach reflects pragmatic design choices that prioritize real-world outcomes over impressive numbers. Its General Electric F414 engine is not the most powerful option available. It is not cutting-edge technology pushing performance boundaries, but it is highly reliable across operating conditions that matter. Simpler systems reduce the risk of mechanical failures that ground aircraft during critical moments. They simplify repairs when damage occurs. They lower life cycle costs that accumulate across decades of operation. For smaller air forces that must maintain their own fleets without constant manufacturer support, reliability outweighs peak performance every time. Sensors and data link systems are NATO-compatible despite Sweden's historical neutrality. The Gripen can share intelligence seamlessly with F-35s, F-16s, and Eurofighter Typhoons operating alongside it. While this interoperability may seem like a minor technical detail, strategically it is transformative. It means nations can operate Gripens within alliance structures without sacrificing coalition effectiveness. They gain independence without isolation, autonomy without abandonment of collective defense. Electronic warfare capabilities further demonstrate the Gripen's practical effectiveness. Expert assessments highlight its ability to jam enemy radar systems, generate false signals that confuse targeting, neutralize air defense installations that would threaten more expensive aircraft. NATO exercises frequently assign Gripen squadrons to suppression of enemy air defense missions, where they perform exceptionally well against simulated threats. Swedish pilots emphasize the philosophy embedded in these capabilities. Survivability sufficient to complete missions and return safely outweighs the theoretical advantages of absolute stealth that may not function perfectly against evolving countermeasures. The way Sweden markets the Gripen intensifies Pentagon concerns beyond the aircraft itself. Unlike American arms sales, which often involve deep ongoing dependence on Lockheed Martin for software maintenance, update cycles, and operational permissions, Gripen contracts emphasize autonomy from the beginning. Technology transfers are standard rather than exceptional concessions extracted through difficult negotiations. Local assembly builds domestic industrial capability. Industry participation creates jobs and expertise that remain within purchasing nations permanently. Brazil assembles Gripens domestically and develops subsystems through its own engineering teams. The Czech Republic contributes to maintenance operations serving Central European operators. Each contract builds local capability while reducing dependence on foreign oversight that could be withdrawn during political disputes. This creates a ripple effect of strategic independence that Washington cannot easily influence through traditional leverage mechanisms. Once capability exists domestically, threatening to withhold support loses effectiveness entirely. NATO faces a genuine dilemma that procurement officials discuss privately even when public statements emphasize unity. F-35s remain the optimal technological choice for certain mission profiles. Advanced stealth penetrates air defenses that would destroy conventional aircraft. Unmatched integration with American systems enables coalition operations at unprecedented effectiveness. Superior air combat capabilities provide advantages that matter when engagements actually occur. Yet the realities of budget constraints and operational readiness favor the Gripen for smaller nations that cannot afford F-35 fleets large enough to matter. The Gripen delivers sufficient deterrence at a fraction of the cost, while maintaining high availability rates that F-35 operators struggle to achieve. Analysts increasingly question what air superiority actually means in practice. Does it lie in a small number of technologically advanced jets, half of which sit grounded waiting for maintenance or parts? Or does it rest in a larger fleet of reliable aircraft always ready to fly when missions demand? Does effective air defense depend on the best technology controlled externally by foreign powers? Or does it require functional capability governed locally by national authorities who understand their own needs? Recent NATO exercises underline this reality through demonstrated performance rather than theoretical projections. Units operating Gripens maintain higher mission readiness rates. They conduct more sorties during exercise periods. They sustain longer operational campaigns under comparable budget constraints. Practical performance and autonomy often outweigh theoretical superiority that never fully materializes. The Pentagon's concern ultimately focuses less on the Gripen itself and more on what its growing popularity represents. It challenges the foundational assumption that air dominance requires dependence on the United States and ultra-expensive, highly specialized technology that only American industry can provide. The Gripen proves that effective air power can be achieved through pragmatism, local control, and strategic foresight that prioritizes long-term independence over short-term capability maximization. Countries that acquire Gripens begin questioning the necessity of F-35 purchases. They reconsider how much control they are willing to surrender in exchange for cutting-edge capability they may not actually need. This dynamic forces American strategists to confront an uncomfortable truth. Global power can shift without a single aerial confrontation ever occurring. Economics and philosophy may matter more than technology when nations make decisions that accumulate into transformed strategic landscapes. The real question facing Washington is not which aircraft performs better in simulated combat. It is how nations will choose to balance cost, capability, and independence when making decisions that shape their security for decades. The Gripen represents a path toward autonomy that increasing numbers of medium-sized nations find attractive. As more countries face this choice, the global balance of air power could evolve in directions that challenge assumptions Washington has relied upon for generations. Subscribe now for continued coverage as this strategic competition unfolds. Your engagement keeps these critical analyses visible.